Okay, so now let's move to the next one. Right, let's move to the next one, which is another subcategory. Okay, so we're gonna have bilateral contract and unilateral contract. Okay, please spend a few minutes to read that, and then we will discuss. Read the slide, I mean. Okay, so do we have this concept in Vietnamese law? Have you guys read, have you guys started reading the Vietnamese contract law yet? Okay, everyone's silent. Looks like you guys have not. Okay, so under the US law, right, bilateral contract versus unilateral contract, right? So every contract involves at least two parties, right? We don't have a one-party contract, okay? So, and we're gonna have a term called an offeror and an offeree. You guys, your major is legal English, so I'm sure you know that. But just to remind you again, right? An offeror is the party making the offer, okay? And the offeree is the party to whom the offer is made. Okay, so for example, Nga has a new Samsung 22. Is it, they have the 22 right now? I don't remember. Okay, and Nga told me, right, that I have a new I have a new Samsung Galaxy S22. Okay, and I would like to sell it to you. Would you like to buy my phone? It's very detailed, right? Okay, at the price of her is the 22 Ultra, right? So she offered me the price at 30 million Vietnam dong. Okay, so and with very details of color and things like that, right? So at that time, right, Nga is the offerer, right? The offer is to buy a Samsung Ultra at the price of 30 million Vietnam dong, right? And I am the one who receives that offer, right? So I am the offer. Okay, all right. So back to bilateral and unilateral. Whether a contract, right, is classified as bilateral or unilateral depends on what the offeree must do to accept the offer and bind the offerer to the contract. Okay. Again, right? So how we classify, right, the contract to be as bilateral or unilateral depends on what the offeree, okay, an offeree must do to accept the offer and bind the offerer, who is Nga, to a contract. Okay, bilateral contract. If, right, an offeree can simply accept by promising to perform. Okay, the contract is called bilateral. Okay, so a bilateral contract is a promise for a promise. It means what? No performance, such as payment or funds or delivery of goods, need to take place in order for a bilateral contract to be formed. Okay, the contract comes into existence at the moment the promises are exchanged. Okay, so back to the example of Nghe and I. Okay, so after listening to Nghe offer, and I say, okay, I would like to buy your phone, right? And however, I will give you the 30 million for the smartphone on March 1st when I get paid. Okay, so on March 1st, I get paid, and that is when I'm going to give her 30 million Vietnam dong. Nghe accepts, right? Sorry, yes, Nghe accepts that and promise to give me the smartphone when I pay her on March 1st, right? So Nghe and I have formed a bilateral contract, right? Only by exchanging promises. Okay. On the other hand, unilateral contract is what? Right? So if an offer is phrased so that the offeree can accept the offer only by completing the contract performance. So that contract is a unilateral, right? So in the other word, it is a promise for an act, right? So a unilateral contract is formed not at the moment when the promises are exchanged, but at the moment when the contract is performed. Okay, example. I ask Nghe, right? No, maybe let me find someone else. See, for example, I tell him that if you can drive my car from my house here in Ho Chi Minh City to Da Nang, right? And this in central of Da Nang, then I will give you 10 million, right? 10 million. So only on its completion of the act, which means driving my car to Da Nang, does she fully accept my offer, right, to pay 10 million? So if he decides not to accept the offer to drive my car from Ho Chi Minh City to Da Nang, there are no legal consequences. Okay? And as you can see, like contest or lottery and other competitions involving prizes are example of offer to form unilateral contracts. Okay, so for example, if you decide to, how can I say, follow the rule of a contest. Okay, so for example, you submit your information at the right place in the right time, right? For a lottery, right? A unilateral contract is actually formed, right? And for example, the sponsor offering the prize, right, is then bound to the contract to perform as promised in the offer, right? And if I did not do what the sponsor of the lottery, right, or of the contest asked me to do, right, no binding contract is formed. Okay, so that is to elaborate more on unilateral contract. Until now, guys. Any questions, everyone? Hold on 1 second. I think the internet is not very clear. Can you guys hear me clearly?
Yes, miss, we can hear you.
Okay, good, perfect. Just feel free to let me know, because when I do the sound test, it was not very clear, but since you can hear me, that is okay. Thank you. Any other questions so far? All right, so now let's move on. No, it's okay. All right, so since you have not read any Vietnamese law, it is really hard for us to compare, right? So this is just a guideline for you. It's like a how can I say, an outline, right? A guideline outline for you, what you need to look for as you read the Vietnamese law, okay? Vietnamese contract law. Most of this information you can find in the textbook that I mentioned on Monday, okay? Next one, based on validity, right? We have 3 categories, and the second one is based on validity. So under the US law, if we categorize the contract based on validity, we're going to have valid contract, void contract, voidable, and unenforceable. Okay, so first look at valid contract. So please have a look at the slide yet first. Okay, so a contract, like we said before, like there's a lot of things like an agreement and things like that. So not all agreement is a contract, right? So for a contract to be valid, there are essential elements that need to be met. Okay, so in another word, a valid contract has the elements necessary to entitle at least one of the party to enforce it. Okay, and what are those elements? I'm going to briefly discuss it, because all of each element will be, we will talk about them in greater detail later on. Okay, so there are, okay, so before we actually share that, so from your perspective, you are the 4th year, right? And you did study tort law, you study some of the law classes. So what are some elements that you think could be necessary for a contract to be valid? For a contract to be valid, what do you think should be there, should be met?
Well, I think that for a contract to be valid, there needs to be an agreement between the parties.
Sorry. Long, can you hear me?
Not very clearly, Miss.
Okay, is it better now? Long, is it better now?
Yes, better now.
Oh, okay. So let me turn off my camera for a while. Okay. So what did you say? Can you please repeat?
Yes, of course. I said that for a contract to be valid, there need to be an agreement between parties.
Okay, you need agreement. All right. So what do you mean by agreement between the parties?
For example, when
You, yes, please.
yes, for example, when A offer B something, B have to agree A's offer. If B did not agree, then there's no agreement at all. Hello, Miss.
Yes. So you say that A offer B something, right?
Yes.
And then if B what? And then if B what?
And then if B didn't agree A's offer,
Mm-hmm.
then there's no contract, there's no agreement.
Okay, get it. All right. So for example, A say offer B something. All right. So for example, let's use the example between me and Nga and the Samsung 22 Ultra. Okay. So if Nga offer to sell me the Samsung S22 Ultra at 30 million and I say no, right? It means there is no agreement, right? Châu Long, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you clearly.
Okay, good. Right. So if Nga offer to sell me a smartphone, right? And if I say no, it means there is no agreement, right?
Yes, exactly.
Good. All right. So the first element, according to you, should be agreement. Now, what should be number two?
Miss, I would like to share my opinion. Miss, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now. Yep.
Oh.
So what would be number the two? You say agreement. What else that we have?
I think that the parties that join the contract need to have full civil act capacity and legal capacity.
Okay, so you say that the capacity, right? Yes. Okay. Yes, I understand when you say civil capacity with capacity of right.
Yes. Miss, I think that your internet connection is not very stable. We can hardly hear you. Your voice is keeping on and off.
Sorry, I don't know what happened. I cannot Sorry, guys. Kenya, I'm sorry. Can you please continue where the last thing that I pick up from you is that the party should have the capacity, right? And what else?
Another thing that I can come up is that the subject of the contract should be legal.
What do you mean by that? Can you please specify? I get what you mean, but maybe you clarify for your class.
Sure. So it's based on each country that they have their own illegal things that they cannot be purchased or sell, like weapons or drugs or things like that. So,
okay, sure.
Yeah.
Yep, agree. What else? Is there anything else?
I think that I can stop there.
I think it's also need a consideration.
Consideration. Okay, what is consideration? What do you mean by consideration?
Yes, when the party need to reach agreement, they need consideration that something of benefit to the other party who has the obligation or makes permits to do something.
Okay. Yes. So can you please give an example to clarify your point?
Yes. For example, it could be money or you exchange something.
Yes. Can you please give an example and kind of say, okay, in that example, what is consideration?
Do you mean the definition of the consideration?
No, an example of consideration. So, for example, in an for instance, in an example between me and Nghe, right, for selling and buying the Samsung S22 Ultra,
Yes.
what is the consideration and what is the considered example?
In that context, the consideration tend to be the money they pay to Nghe.
Okay, the money right? I am the offeree.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. So you say that the next one that you pointed out is consideration. Okay. 4, right? Consideration. Anything else? Anyone? Thank you. Good job. Anyone else?
Miss, can you hear me?
Yes, Kandon, right?
Yes. Another thing that make a contract is enforceable is that the legal objects. For example, if two parties they agree to sell and buy illegal drug that could not be a legal or enforceable agreement.
Okay, thank you. Good. I agree, and that's what we meant by legal purpose, right? In number 3, that's right.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, Miss.
Yep. Thank you. Anyone else? Any other ideas, please? Feel free to share, guys.
I think of the form of the contract, because some forms of the contract must follow certain forms in accordance with the provisions of law for each type of contract. For example, some contract need to be in written form to be valid.
Okay, thanks, Mai. Yep, you mean formality, right?
Yes.
Yep, okay, agree. Thank you. Anyone else?
I think that we can also consider the freedom of will of the parties when they enter into the contract.
Freedom, okay. What do you mean by that? Yes, I get you, but can you please clarify that?
Sure. So let's take the example of us selling the Samsung phone again. That I cannot force you as a buyer to pay me the money, and you cannot force me to give you the Samsung. So
Okay.
technically, the party had to enter into the contract because they want to, but and not without other forces.
Voluntary. It means that the party agreed to enter into the transaction voluntarily, right?
Yes, that's correct.
So that's okay. We can say that voluntary consent. Voluntary consent. Okay, good. Thank you very much. Right. So all of you, all of the information that you provided me show that either you guys have read it in the Vietnamese textbook or in the U.S. law textbook, or you find it somewhere online. Right. So very good job. So let me. Actually, there are different. If you read different sources, there will be how can I say, different answers to this. But technically, right, the core, the nature, but is still the same, right? But let's stick with the way that the business law Harry Cheeseman actually wrote, because that is our official textbook, right? And then I will summarize I will, how can I say, reorganize your answers into the one that the textbook that we use, right? So we make sure that we are on the same page, because otherwise some of your classmates may ask, oh, why the textbook say this, but you say this, right? The textbook pointed out only 4, but you give us 6. All right. So the number 1 would be agreement, right? Agree, right? What is the agreement, right? Your classmates already share that. So that is like an offer, the acceptance, right? And one party must offer to enter into a legal agreement, and then the other party must accept the term of the offer. Okay. Number 2 would be consideration. This concept, we will study each of these elements in the greater detail. Okay, so don't worry. If you look at the outline, you're going to see that consideration is actually a legally sufficient. Okay, let me say this another way. Any promises made by the party to the contract must be supported by legally sufficient and bargain for consideration. Consideration means something of value received or promised, right? Because as you can say, bilateral contract, you just a promise for a promise. You have not received anything yet, right? Such as money to convince a person to make a deal. Okay, that is consideration. Number 3 is that this is what Nga pointed out, right? Civil capacity and legal capacity, right? That is the Vietnamese concept mindset, right? But generally, we're going to say contractual capacity, right? We have to use the term appropriate to the context, right? If we are talking about the U.S. law, we don't use civil capacity or legal capacity because they don't have that concept. But if we talk about Vietnamese law, definitely we can use that. Okay, contractual capacity, it means that both or all parties enter into a contract must have the contractual capacity to do so, right? And the law must recognize them as possessing, having characteristics that qualify them as competent party. Right, and the last one, which mentioned by 2 of their classmates, legal purpose, or we can say it legality. Okay, legality means that the contract's purpose must be to accomplish some goal that is legal and not against public policy, right? So legal means like what Nghe and Khánh Linh, right, say, which is like if a contract to transport heroin, drugs, cocaine, or weapons, right? What is not legal, right? Or if A say to B that, hey, if you punch C 10 times, I will give you 10 million Vietnam dong, right? That one not only is illegal, but it's also against public policy, right? So it affects other things of the society, okay? So we cannot have those kind of contracts, okay? And those kind of contract is not valid at all, right? Regarding formality, I understand where this one comes from, right? Especially if we read the Vietnamese textbook, because that can I say, that provision actually come right after. If you have the civil code with you, right, you're gonna see that they came right after when they discuss the elements for a contract to be valid. Have you guys read the civil code yet?
Yes, some of us have.
Yes, good. So some of you have, right? So can you guys point out where in the civil code when they pointed out the formality thing? Anyone can point out this? If you read the civil code already. So right after they regulate, right? The how can I say, the essential elements for a civil transaction to be valid, right? Right after that, that is clause 1, right? And clause 2, they mentioned that the formality of the civil transaction is the condition for a contract, for a civil transaction to be valid in certain circumstances regulated by law, right? So which article is that? Can anyone find it down? If you read it already, I'm sure you remember. Which article of the civil code?
Article
Mention
117.
Very good. Article 117. Thanks, man. Right? If you look at 117.2, right? Article 117, clause 2, they're going to say that a form of civil transaction is a condition for its effectiveness in case where the law so provides. Okay, so in the US, right, they don't put it in the essential element for a contract to be valid because only some contracts require to be in writing. Okay, so that can be an addition condition, but it is not the firm condition that apply in all the transactions. Okay, and voluntary assent as well. That one is also necessary, of course, but with that voluntary consent, the contract is not void, right? The contract can still be carried out at the option of the person who was, for example, under duress, right? So, for example, if someone put a gun at B and say that if you don't sign this contract to sell your house at so A side, right? And but however, later on, BA tell the court that okay, this contract is valid because it has all of the elements, but I was not voluntarily wanna sell it, right? So in this case, right, the contract is not void, right? It is just that if I still wanna, because it has all the elements, agreement, consideration, contractual capacity, and legality, even though the voluntary consent is missing, but if, right, if the party would like to carry it out, that for example, the person who was if A still want to sell the house at 2 billion Vietnam dong, right? The court will not intervene. Okay, like the court doesn't have any problem with that. However, if A didn't want to sell it, B cannot take that contract to court and ask for enforcement, right? So if a valid contract means if one of the party breached the contract, the other party can ask for help from the court to order the other party to do what they have to do. Do you follow me in this point? It's a little bit confused, right? So voluntarily consent and form are in the US law are actually what we call legal defense to the enforceability of the contract. Okay, so now 5 and 6, right? 5, right, and 6 are actually what we call the legal defense. Legal defense to the enforceability of a contract. So again, means what? Even if all of the requirements listed 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? The contract may be unenforceable if, right? If the contract doesn't meet the form of the contract or voluntarily consent, right? Later on, we will study different, after the void contract, we will look at unenforceable contract. Then you understand more when I say, what do I mean by unenforceable contract? It is not void, huh? It is not void, but it is just unenforceable. Okay, so, right, if you look in the slide, right, so in this case, okay, so again, back to valid contract. The contract that meet all of the essential elements, right? They are enforceable by either or all of the parties to that contract. Okay, and void contract, right? What are void contracts? So void contract are contracts, but not the contract at all, right? So it means there is no contract. For example, right? If someone was determined by a court to be mentally incompetent, right? So, or if the purpose of the contract is illegal, right? Then, of course, the 4 elements, they are the number 3 and number 4, right? Are not met. So, no, how to say, that contract is not a contract at all. All right, so that is called a void contract. It means what? None of the parties have any legal obligations. Okay, so if A, right, ask B to give A 10 guns, right, and it is illegal, okay, according to the US law, not the US law, but whatever country law, right? So, and after A delivered 10 guns, right, B did not pay, right? So actually, since that contract is void, so none of the party have any legal obligation, right? It means that A don't have to pay B anything because the purpose of the contract was illegal. Therefore, the contract is void. Therefore, none of the party have any legal obligation. And of course, B cannot bring that contract to the court and ask the court to order A to pay the money because the contract is void, right? It means there was no contract between A and B at all. Is it okay now, guys? Any questions so far? Okay, move on. Next one, we have voidable and unenforceable, right? By the term voidable, avoided, right? You can choose to do that or not, right? So a voidable contract is a valid contract at first, okay? But one of the party can, or more, one or more of the party can avoid the contract, all right? And the party having the option can either to avoid any duty to perform or to ratify the contract. Okay, so for example, I make a contract with Ngày, right? And that contract is avoidable if I am the person who has that option to avoid it. Usually it's going to be with minor, right? Or I'm not a minor, but like say, for example, Ngày is a minor, right? So Ngày has an option to avoid that or to ratify that. It means to make the contract valid, right? So if a contract is voided, both parties are released from the contract. If it is ratified, right, then both parties must fully perform their respective legal obligations, right? And contracts made by minors usually voidable at the option of the minor. Of course, there are certain exceptions, right? Or contracts made by mentally incompetent person and intoxicated person may also be avoidable. And we will discuss more of like, of like minor or incompetent and intoxicated people later on. Okay, or contracts enter into under any fraudulent conditions, also avoidable at the option of the defrauded party. Okay, this is what I say before, right? So if A, the one was put the gun at, right? So it was under fraudulent. It's not fraudulent. This is duress. Okay, so never mind. Right. So one party, when one party has an option to avoid that contract, right? It can be either the person is incompetent mentally, right, or the person under fraudulent conditions, or it can be under duress or undue influence. It can also be avoidable. Enforceable contract, right, is the one that cannot be enforced because one of the legal defenses against it, right? As I mentioned before, the legal defenses are the formality and the voluntary consent. Okay, it is not unenforceable because the party failed to satisfy the legal requirement of the contract. But even though it is a valid contract, it is unenforceable by some statute of law, right? So, for example, certain contracts must be in writing, and if they are not, they will not be enforceable except in certain exceptional circumstances. Okay, so I know it's a little bit confused right now, so let's do a little exercise. Okay, so let's have this. We have I just wanna, what can I say? Make it easier for you guys to remember the material, right? So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right? This 5, right? So let's match these things together. Number A, we have no contract. B, we have okay. So this is what we have just gone through, right? So now please match the numbers with the letters. Okay, so kind of we kind of wrap up, we summarize what we have discussed, and by giving you the table, the chart, you have an idea of which one is what. Okay, so I'll give you guys maybe 5 minutes to do this. Is it okay? This helps you don't have to go home and learn it again, because this is kind of a review for what we have just gone through. Okay, so please spend 5 minutes and do this. You can just privately message me if you have the answer. Okay. Okay, I received some of your answers. Okay, so what do you think? Number one, what would number one be? So we have to decide what are the big categories first, right? Before going to the sub categories one. Okay. So what number one and number five would be, everyone? We are discussing category of how a contract is classified based on validity under the US law, right? So what are the big number one and number five?
Enforceable contract and enforceable contract.
Number one and number five, you think is unenforceable contract and which one?
Contract.
Give me the letter A, B, C, D, E, F.
C and F.
Okay. Number one is okay. Number one you think is C. Oh. C. Oh, so why I can write it. Hold on. Okay, we have C and F here. Anyone else, please? Anyone else? Other options, please. Any other people? What do you guys think?
Can I share my answers?
Yeah, of course. Go ahead.
I think number one is B and number five is D.
Okay, hold on one second. Okay, so you think number one is B? Is that what you say?
Yes, B.
And number five is
D.
D, right? Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. Anyone else, please?
I think number one is A, and number five is F.
Okay.
B.
Okay. Number one is F.
Number one is A.
A. Okay. And number five is
B.
B as a bear. This one?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Anyone else?
I think the first one is F and number five is A.
Okay, hold on. Number one is F and number five is A.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Anyone else? All right, maybe let's hear from you guys have a lot of different answers. So let's hear. How about number two? Two, 3, 4, and 6. Anyone, please? Can you give me your response? What do you think would be number two?
Can I answer that?
Yes, go ahead.
That two is E.
E?
Yes.
Okay.
3
3
is F.
F,
and 4 is C.
C. Okay. How about number 6? Is what?
A.
A. Okay. Hold on. Done. This is your set. Which one that you chose from? Here?
I choose B and D for the
B
first.
and D. Okay, right. So I'm gonna know. So which one they're gonna go together. All right, good. Thanks. Anyone else? Anyone else?
I think two
Yes,
is
you.
2 is A.
2 is A.
Yeah. 3
Uh-huh.
is D.
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 Okay, sorry.
Yeah.
D.
Yes. 4 is E.
E.
And 6 is B.
B. Okay, thanks. You are the first one, right?
Yes.
Okay, good. Thank you. Anyone else?
I think number 2 is C.
C.
Number 3 is D.
B. B is as a bear.
D.
D.
Yeah.
Okay.
Number 4 is E.
E.
Yeah.
Okay.
And number 6 is S.
S. Okay, so are you this person? Didn't right? A and B? Is that you?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. All right. Maybe the last one. Who chose F and A? Is it Nga?
Yes, it's me.
Yep. Okay, yep. So,
So would it be possible for me to change a little bit my
yeah.
first answer? So
Sure.
instead of 1 to F, I would like to change 1 to B.
Do you change number 5 to B?
No, I don't want to change number 5.
Okay, just number 1. Okay, sure. 1 is B, right? And number 5 is to A?
Yes.
Okay,
And
so number 2 would be?
number 2, I would like to have F.
Uh-huh.
Okay. And then E.
Mm-hmm.
And F, E, and C.
Mm-hmm.
And number 6, I would like to have D. Yes, that's correct.
Okay, all right, thank you. All right, so let's look at the chart together. Okay, so first of all, you can see that the thing that can make the big category, like to see the most difference between among all of these letters from A to F is that, right? So we must group them into certain groups that have some similarities, okay? So we have that valid contract, right? In this one, right? And the next one would be void contract, okay? Because those are the things that very different with each other, because from a valid contract, you cannot come up with one of the option of 2, 3, 4 is void, right? Because they are very different, right? They don't have anything in similar. A void contract, again, is not a contract at all. Actually, the term, both terms void and contract are contradictory. When you say a void contract is no contract, that is funny, right? Because if it's a void contract and no contract, how can there's a contract? The word contract there. But anyway, these are the biggest difference, right? So it is after you have B and D crossed out, right? You have, when you say a void contract is no contract at all, right? You already have that. So easy, you have A, right? So that's it. The rest, right? C, E, F. Any order would be fine. It doesn't have to be in any order, because I just want you to remember the concept, okay? Any order, right? It is okay, as long as you put it in the correct one, right? So again, A valid contract, right? A contract that has the necessary contractual element, right? Agreement, consideration, the capacity of the party, and legal purpose. Okay, so in that valid contract, right? So maybe I write this so it's easy for you to follow. You can put it in any order. If this is an exam, you can put it in any order. That will be fine. Okay, but I will write it in a different order, easier order for you to remember. A valid contract, first of all, right? As I mentioned over and over again, a valid contract must be enforceable, right? So what way is enforceable? F. Okay. It must be enforceable. It means that because there are no legal offenses against it, right? Avoidable contract, E, right? Oh, sorry, F and then E. Right, avoidable contract. It means that the party has the option of avoiding or enforcing the contractual obligation, right? The enforceability gonna goes down, okay, from the top to the bottom. And then the last one, unenforceable contract, right? It means what? It means a contract does exist, but it cannot enforce because of a legal defense, like many of you pointed out. Either it doesn't have voluntary consent or the formality of it. Okay, unenforceable, which is C. Right. So hopefully this chart gives you an overview of the concept of valid, votable, unenforceable, and void contract in a much easier way to understand. Right. Okay. Next one. Let's look at, let's stop sharing this. I'm going to share. Okay, next one. If we base on performance, right? So we're gonna have executed contract and executory contract. Okay, executed contract and executory contract. So in this category, contracts are classified according to the degree to which they have performed. Okay, a contract that has been fully performed by on both sides is called an executed contract, right? And a contract that has not been fully performed by the party is called an executory contract, right? So if one party has fully performed but the other has not, the contract is said to be executed on one side and executory on the other side, but the contract generally is still classified as executory. Okay, so let me give you an example. Can anyone give me an example? Too much of me talking, so maybe let me back up. I have do some speaking. Can anyone give an example of executed contract and executory?
I think executed contract can be a purchase contract, like the seller give the buyer goods and the guarantee policy, if any, and the buyer must give money to the seller. And that means both parties fully perform their obligation.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Paul. Anyone else?
I think, for example, of executed contract, when someone goes to a store and pay cash for a car, then the store receive the full purchase price, and then that one can tax the car. Yes.
Okay, so someone came to the dealer and then pay full cash to the car and then take the car, okay?
Yes.
That is an example of
executed contract. Yes. And for executory contract, that the landlord provide a living space, and the tenant pay it for a set a period of time.
Okay, thank you. Right. What's your name? E? Okay, good. Hang in, right?
Yes.
Hang in. Okay, anyone else, please? This is a very easy example, easy category, right? So all of your examples are very good, right? So let's take let's go back to the example. I will give you another one, so just to make sure that we have a variety. So get back to the example between me and Nga and the Samsung, okay? So when Nga, I agree to buy the phone. So when Nga deliver the phone to me and I pay her the full amount of 30 million Vietnam dong, right? It means that we already fully performed our obligation to the contract, and that contract is called executed. Okay, so if I already paid Nga 30 million, but she has not delivered the phone to me, then that contract is executory. The contract is on my side, is executed, hers is executory, but the contract generally is executory. Okay, and vice versa. If she gave me the phone already, but I have not paid her the full amount of 30 million, I just pay 1, 2, 3, or even 0, I have not paid anything, then the contract is executory. Okay, very, very simple. Okay, thanks a lot, guys. Next one. Right, so we already finished chapter 1. Right, we already finished chapter 1, and before moving on to chapter 2, do you have any questions? Any questions? You can ask me now, so later on, if we have to do with anything based on the information on chapter 1, then you should not have any problem with that.
Can I have a question?
Yep.
So is there any possibility that executory contract is a void contract? Because like executory means not fully performed by either or both sides, and so that contract is enforceable?
It is void, then
Yes.
how can it be enforceable? If it is void, nobody has any, how can I say, if a contract is void, it means that nobody actually has any legal obligations to that contract.
So executory contract means one or all the parties breach the contract, right?
No, not breach the contract. They have not finished what they have to do. They not breach the contract yet. Okay, Phụng, let me clarify again, right? So the example, okay, maybe let me draw it for you guys, so it's easier. Give me a sec. Let me stop share this. Let me share screen. Okay. So today is the 24th, right? Okay, February 24th, 2022. So Nghe offered to sell me the Samsung S22 Ultra, right? At the price of 30 million Vietnam đồng. Okay. So, and I say that I will pay her on March 1st, right? When I got paid. Okay. So, and then at this day, right? When I give her the money, right? It's 500 Vietnam đồng, right? Oh no, 60. Okay, 60, right? And then she actually gave me the phone, right? Samsung S22 Ultra. Okay, so from now until here, right? It's the time to pay and get the phone. From now until here, the contract is called executory, right? It means it has not been done yet. It's completed yet by either party, either by me or by Nghe, right? So, but when at this time, right, when I already gave her the money, right, and she gives me the phone, so this time when it's over, all of this was actually exchanged, then this contract is executed, right? But, right, for example, from here until, from this point to this point, from point A to point B, right? If in the middle, right, Nghe say that, oh, it's okay, you can just maybe on February 28th, you say, hey, here's the phone. It's okay, you can just keep the phone and then you can pay me later at point B. So at this time, okay, the contract is still considered consecutory because only Nghe performed her position, her obligation, but I have not. Is it okay? It's not related to pitching contract or anything. It just means that whether the contract has been fully performed or not. When it is fully performed by both parties, it is executive. If it is not fully performed by both or either of the party, it is executory. That's it. Just very, very simple. Don't think of preach or anything in this place at this point. Okay, let's just talk about the performance of the party to regarding their contractual obligation. Is it okay? Am I make it, do I make it clearer for you?
Yeah, I think I understand it now. Thank you.
Yeah. No, it's not regarding to pitch or something. Okay, thank you.
So, Miss, would it be possible for an executory contract to be avoidable contract?
Yeah, of course. Yep, definitely. So, for example, I already pay you, right? No, you A and it's another one, right? So there is between X and Y, right? Y is a minor, a kid, right? A minor under 18, right? So so Y actually pay. No, X actually gives the phone to Y as point C, okay? And when X receives the phone, right, from Y, X decide that, no, I don't want this transaction anymore. I would like to avoid it because X is a minor, Y is an adult. Okay, so at point C, right, actually X can avoid the contract, right, and then and then give the phone back to Y and don't have to pay any money. We will study more regarding like avoidable contract and anything related to minor later on when we actually deal with study minor in greater detail. Okay, even if when the contract is executed, it can still if you do a contract with a minor, that contract is still voidable. Is it okay, Nan?
Yes, Miss, I understand.
All right, thank you. All right, so now let's maybe, in order to help you understand a little bit more, let's do an exercise together. Okay, let's do an exercise together. Let me see. Oh, okay, let's have I have a very good example that's very close to your question. Okay, so one second. Okay, I stop. How can I erase this? Okay, so D say to E that D will pay E 10,000 US dollar if E, right, set fire. The condition is that E set fire, right, to D store, right, because D would like to collect the money from the insurance. Okay, so and E actually did have some fire. I don't know how to draw fire, but whatever. Okay, set fire to the store, right? However, at this time, right after E actually set fire, but D refused to pay. No payment. Okay, so the question is, can E recover, get the money back? Right? Why and why not? Is it clear, everyone? Again, D say to E that D will pay E 10,000 US dollar to set fire to D store so that D can collect the money, right? An insurance, right? And D did what E asked D to do. E did what D asked E to do. Okay, but later on, after the store is on fire, right? D refused to pay. Can E got the money from D and why? Is it clear? Any question for the scenario? Hello. Is it clear, everyone? Can you listen to me? All right. So can you guys listen to me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, good. Thank you. All right. So please spend 10 minutes, okay, to work on this. Would you like to be in a group or you would like to work by yourself? This exercise.
I think it would be more interesting if we could work in group.
Group. Okay. You want to choose the group by yourself or you want me to assign it?
Well, it's up to other people how other.
What would you
others-
like, guys? Sure. Any other idea, guys? You want the group by yourself or you want me to automatically assign it for you?
I will group more without myself. I mean, can we choose our partner?
Sure. Okay, so let me see. You guys have 26. I'll divide you guys into 6 groups. Okay. And then I'll let you choose your room. Okay. And then let me see. I'll give you guys 15 minutes. Should be enough, right? More than enough. And then you can just choose the room. And then you see the people in your room and you can just choose that and you will be discussing with the people that you would like to. Okay? Is it okay? Any problem?
It's more than okay. Thank you very
Alright.
much.
Yeah, no worries, guys. I will be here. So if you have any question, you just put in the chat box. I will answer. Okay.